There's a storm across the valley. The clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder.
Welcome to Community Forum. My name is Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, your host. Today is April 5th, 2022. We're in the studio. COVID hopefully is a thing of the past. And today I'm interviewing Jenn Starr, who is a candidate for re-election to the Easton School Committee. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Priscilla. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's great to meet you. I've heard a lot about you, and I'm impressed with the fact that you aren't someone who comes lately. You're somebody who started out with your kids as soon as they entered kindergarten. You became involved. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So we moved to Easton in 2003 when my two oldest children, I have a son and a stepdaughter who are the same age, were starting kindergarten. And I became involved in the parent organizations at Parkview right from the get-go. I think my first event was probably at the sheep pasture, doing fried dough at the harvest fair in the pouring rain, trying to dodge being splashed by oil from the fryolator. So I found that by becoming involved in the schools immediately, it was a great way to make friends, to meet other parents, to get to know the teachers and the staff within the school, and to understand what was the culture of Easton. I was new to Easton, so other than knowing of Easton's reputation for excellent schools, I had grown up in another town about 20 minutes away from here. I didn't know anybody in the town or the town itself, so I found that was a really wonderful way to get involved, and that my that help from anybody was certainly welcome, and that there were lots of folks here who could put you to good use if you raised your hand.
So what did you learn through those experiences? Because you held some offices.
Yes. So after a few years of helping out with various volunteer activities, I decided that I had the capacity to be able to become more involved. So I took on an officer position as the treasurer of the middle school PAC when my oldest kids were in the middle school. And from there, as part of a PAC officer, obviously you attend every meeting, and we got some really good insight into some of the functioning of the school in a broader sense. So at EMS, the PAC meetings would follow the school council meetings, and so Principal Giugio would come and give us an update first on what the school council had been working on. So that was very interesting to me because it's a different perspective. The PACs are more about supporting fundraising and activities, where the councils are really about charting the course for the school's educational purposes going forward. And we often had school committee members, Caroline O'Neill would come and attend meetings and give us updates on what was happening. So as I became more involved in as an officer in those organizations, it definitely piqued my interest in the resources that were available within the district and how to best deploy those. People might be surprised by some of the things that PACs and PTAs pay for that are not part of the operating budgets of schools, or that PACs and PTAs, a lot of the fundraising goes towards helping to offset costs for families to be able to participate in activities like field trips, or they offer scholarships for students who may not be able to pay for an instrument. So it was very enlightening to get that view into some of the challenges and opportunities within the district and within the schools themselves.
So your background is in finance, and I would think that at budget time and at other times of the year, your experience and expertise is are very valuable.
Yes, I'd like to think so. I certainly hope so. I'm somebody who's not intimidated by budgets and numbers. So send the spreadsheets my way, and I'm happy to dive into them and tackle the information. And that's not a skill that everybody on the committee has, or everybody in general has. So my colleagues on the committee bring tremendous strengths in various backgrounds to the committee, but none of them have a finance background. So I'm able to help them understand some of the information that's in there, answer questions, and really to help find the story in the numbers. And I've also been able to work directly with Dr. Cabral and with our business manager, Marilyn, on analyzing some of the numbers even before we discuss it and get it in front of the committee. And so it's also helped with analyzing compensation, for example, as we look to negotiate with our bargaining units, to be able to analyze a lot of that data, not only within Easton, but comparing us to other districts.
Sure, and then how it impacts the overall budget.
Absolutely, yes. And my work on the Audit Committee helps that as well. So I was appointed to the Audit Committee in 2018 as a community member, and then stayed on the Audit Committee as the school committee representative in
My
2019.
goodness.
So I'm currently
Yeah.
the chair of that committee. So we, certainly poured over the operational audit that had been done to look for any opportunities and follow through on any recommendations that could be implemented from that operational audit. And on an ongoing basis, the town is subject to an annual fiscal audit in addition to some other periodic audits. So we meet directly with the auditors and discuss their findings, their management letter, et cetera. So
Now, are you involved with any grant writing?
I am not currently involved in any grant writing, no. No. So that's something that falls under district administration.
I see.
Yes, yes. And they've been doing, our administrative team, we don't have a formal grant writer position. The administrative team has been working diligently towards using any grant money that we can possibly qualify for. And they do a great job of that, but it's certainly one of the many hats that that have to be handled by administration.
So, how long have you been on the school committee?
I'm wrapping up my first term, so 3 years. So
my
it's
goodness,
been
okay.
A very eventful first term, for sure.
Yes, with the pandemic and all, and what sorts of contributions did you, as a committee member, make in solving the issue of the pandemic?
So when we initially went into the school closure, which was just heartbreaking, I try not to get emotional, but it's been a couple of years, and it was very difficult. To the prospect of separating our kids from the buildings for as long as we had to was super, super challenging. And so initially, we were very concerned about things like food insecurity, making sure that our kids were fed, because we have students who rely on breakfast and lunch at school, making sure that our students who have parents who were essential employees and couldn't work from home and couldn't get time off from work had adequate supervision. So initially, again, much of that is all operational. So it was really just supporting the administration and letting them know that we trusted them to be making those decisions and would support any of the work that needed to be done in the immediate need. Personally, I dusted off my mom's sewing machine and learned how to make masks. So that was how I contributed initially. And over the summer, there was a need specifically for see-through masks.
Oh, yeah.
That have a window in them that are helpful to our preschoolers, kindergartners, English language learners, and some of our special education students. And those are really hard to get a hold of. So I spearheaded an effort to make those.
My goodness.
So we donated, dozens and dozens of those masks, as well as I was the coordinator for a bigger mask effort to have hundreds of cloth masks that were donated to the schools.
Now, did you learn anything through your own children as they were experiencing virtual education?
Oh, absolutely, yes. So my two younger children are still in school. They were in high school. One of them was in 8th grade and 10th grade at the time. So my 8th grader didn't get that normal transition at the end of 8th grade and into high school. And my sophomore really struggled. So it was, I had a front row seat to just how difficult switching into first the fully remote learning and then the hybrid learning was. But I also had a front row seat into how hard their educators were working. And it was kind of neat in the hybrid environment. I was working from home, they were working from home, to overhear some of their lessons, which is a window into their world that I don't normally get. But you know, I can't say enough about the work that their teachers did to pull off that hybrid learning model. It was a very difficult model for them.
Can you explain that to our listening viewing audience?
So the hybrid learning model was, we had, our students were divided into cohorts in order to accommodate 6 feet of spacing between them in school. So this was before we had vaccines available and when we were seeking to have as close to 6 feet of distancing in school as we could. So we had one cohort would attend school 2 days, another cohort would attend school in person 2 days, and on Wednesdays all of our students would learn from home. And so when our teachers were teaching, they would have half of their class in front of them in the classroom, and then they would have half of the class from home working through Google Meet. And many of our teachers, especially in the younger grades, had a facilitator in the room with them who could help make sure that the needs of all of those children who were working from home were met. So if they raised their hand or had a question or technical difficulty, there was another adult in the room who could help out with it.
And how did the paraprofessionals fit into this whole program?
The paras had to continue with their normal support work, but they had to manage, again, having their students split. So some of their students were in school, some of our highest needs students were in school every day if they wanted to be. If their families were comfortable with that, they were in every day. Some stayed at home every day, and then some followed the hybrid model of their peers. So the paras had to provide support to their students who were physically in person, and the paras were physically present every day, but also keep tabs on their students who were working from home and making sure, following up with the family on their learning and any needs that would come up. So I know our paras worked very, very hard to maintain that connectivity and provide services to their students during that time.
So how do you see the future for Easton Public Schools?
Hopefully bright. There's maintaining an excellent public school system takes work day in and day out. It doesn't just happen. There's no magic to it. So we need to continue to make smart, short and long-term decisions. So the district has a vision, it has a mission, it has long-term goals. And what we need to continue to do is make sure that the needs of the immediate, which some days there are very immediate needs that emerge. There are emergencies that come up in really urgent scenarios that different folks in the district have to deal with. And sometimes we can have an all hands on deck kind of scenario. But we can't lose sight of the long-term needs and vision of the district, because if you lose sight of that and focus just on today, you might not make the smartest decisions that will help set you up for success in the future. So we are doing a lot really at all age levels within the district. That's super exciting. The Blanche Ames School is unbelievable. I was able to tour it a couple of weeks ago, and the amount of thought and detail that has gone into every aspect of that building it's hard to convey, but that's going to be transformative for our students and our staff. It's going to attract more students into the district, which, contrary to what people might believe, we actually do need more students. we need enrollment to increase. We have had declining enrollment over a few years, and that does not help us budget-wise. So we hope that the new school building will help attract some new families into the district, and it's going to completely transform the way our educators can teach. So rather than be dealing with HVAC issues or a leaking water heater, all of the things that distract from what our PK to 2 educators have to do every day. They can just do what they do best, which is educate. So I'm super excited for them. So that's our youngest kids are getting a new school that will be a transformative experience. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have been working on a college and career readiness consortium, working with, at this point, I believe it's close to a dozen other districts to be able to bring college coursework to our Oliver Ames students. And in addition, some career readiness. So there was a babysitting and CPR course that just completed. Students would be able to take classes to earn CNA designation, certified nursing assistant, or emergency medical technician. So there are a lot of opportunities that are coming that we're able to work collaboratively with other districts to secure those resources and to offer real college courses that our students will, when the program is fully up and running, the vision is for them to be able to earn up to 30 college credits while they're in high school. That can make the difference between a student being able to afford college or not afford college. And it can also really help with maybe a student doesn't know if college is for them. Try a class in a really safe environment, low stakes environment. If it doesn't work out for you, that's okay. If it does work out for you, great. Maybe we've piqued an interest or helped a student figure out what they want to do for next.
Now, offering college courses has been a long-standing possibility in a lot of schools for many years. And my understanding is that those credits can be credited to a college when they get out, so that so maybe they've completed a whole year of college credits when they become a freshman.
Yes, absolutely.
Or actually they're becoming a sophomore.
That's right.
So I think it's wonderful. But I never thought about the affordability aspect. That is really critical.
Yeah, yep. I mean, if you can go into school if you can start off school with a semester or 2 of courses already behind you.
Yeah.
That's a real game changer for a lot of families. I mean, goodness, the costs of college are out of reach really for a lot of families today. So,
Yeah. Well, I was just listening to CNN, I think, or MSNBC, and they were talking about. No, I know it was Morning Joe, and he was saying that the reason he feels that one of the reasons that college has become so expensive is because of the easy accessibility of student loans.
absolutely.
And so he said we should pass legislation that if you want to, you can only, student loans can only be loaned by the Student Loan Association if community colleges or public schools cost only $10,000 in tuition, and private schools no more than $30,000. Now today, $70,000, $75,000 for a private school, it's not unheard of.
I know.
It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
Absurd. So
And even our public colleges and universities, I have a senior, so this info is really fresh in my mind in terms of what's out there, and even our UMass system is including room and board over $30,000 a year.
yeah, crazy.
Which is just not within reach for a lot of families. So we're looking for ways to try to offer, not only offer students opportunities that they don't have within the curriculum right now. And so by pairing with other schools, to add a course here, we would need to be able to have enough interest to justify the funding of hiring a staff person or adding a course into somebody's schedule. But maybe we have a handful of students at Oliver Ames who are interested in something, and another handful at any of the other schools. So the economy of scale works so that those students can all be learning together from the same instructor and getting that, getting access to that coursework, not just based on what students at Oliver Ames might be interested in or can fit into their schedule.
My goodness, so you really have projected so much about the future in the present. It's amazing. A lot goes into it when you think, if you're really concerned about the future. And I think that is something new in education, because when I'm a graduate of Oliver Ames, and you know, things were much simpler back then, and we got a wonderful education. I was valedictorian.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes, I mean, but we had to work hard, and I came from a working class family, so I knew that I needed scholarships, and I did go to a private school, Lutheran College, and but I got full scholarship. And then my junior year, I got a full scholarship to go to Sweden to study at the University of Stockholm.
Wow.
So my education here in Easton really prepared me. So this is nothing new, that the Eastern school systems have always been excellent.
Yes.
Even, you know, and for me, it's 60 plus years ago, 62 years? I graduated in 1960. Can't remember. Anyway, so I appreciate your coming, and I appreciate the vision that school committee members have for the future. And keeping up with the present technology is also a challenge.
Absolutely. If I have a minute to talk about that, I'd love
Sure.
to talk a little bit more. So for example, one area that where we've been evolving the curriculum at the high school is with industrial technology classes. So those it's important to offer those classes. The hands-on learning is really invaluable to a lot of students. To have that break in the day from just, you know, reading and writing in traditional lecture type courses, to be able to you know, work with your hands and create something is really important, and will always be a really important part of any, you know, well-rounded high school curriculum. But in the past, what we've done with those classes has not kept up with the times. So we were able to hire a terrific industrial arts teacher who's helping us to revamp the curriculum. And students are working with 3D printers, with the drone technology.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So there's a lot that we'll be able to introduce course-wise. It's not only interesting and exciting, but can maybe help introduce some potential career paths.
You know, my
students.
kid brother was an industrial arts teacher up in Maine. He's retired now. And he was always saying that how important it is for children to have those experiences. So much of what we learn, it does not carry over. We might appreciate it, we might love it, but it's not of utilitarian value. And something like a hands-on industrial arts program, it gives them something to do. I mean, you know, it might hurt the carpenters of the world, who one wouldn't hire because you got all these skills in industrial arts. On the other hand, it gives people a sense of self-importance and self-reliance, and that's important.
Yeah, my oldest son is a land surveyor, so he went straight into the workforce. He had an opportunity to learn that craft in high school. He found a job with somebody, and I can tell you his technical drawing and more of those hands-on classes were definitely the most satisfying to him. But on the flip side, my daughter enjoyed those classes as well, and she's graduating with an engineering degree. So they can suit whether or not you're going straight into the workforce or maybe going into more of a vocational training program after high school, or if you're heading off, you know, in college to some type of STEM career, or just to have that practical experience and knowledge. So,
well, I think it's important, as you know, as you pointed out, to have the whole spectrum of opportunities for graduating students, and helping to prepare them for whatever whatever they enjoy, whatever they want to do, whatever their interests are. And your son and daughter are classic examples where one chose the daughter to go on to higher education, become an engineer, and the other one directly into becoming a surveyor. So, yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. And I'm very grateful and proud of the district's focus on educating every student. It's not just about the superstars.
No.
It's not just about the kids who are well suited to go off to a four-year college right after high school. We love those students and value them as well, but you know, there have been, it's easy to have some students sort of fly under the radar, slip through the cracks, and there's a real focus on making sure that we are truly meeting the needs of every student in this district. Yes.
And that brings to mind the special education students, because when I was in school, there was no such thing as special education. We did have, I think we had like divisions like 7-1, 7-2, 7-3, 7-4. And 7-4 was probably for special ed kids. But there was no special ed teacher. There was no desire to meet the needs of every student. And I think that particular policy now is what is needed in this 21st century.
Absolutely. So I could talk about special ed all day. I won't. I'm going to be mindful of the time, but I've long been involved. So Easton has a very robust Special Ed Parent Advisory Council, or CPAC. I've been involved with that for many years as a parent. And as a school committee member, I still stay involved. It's really valuable to have that connection right into the parent community so that we get firsthand feedback on what's working and what needs to improve. We have tremendous special educators in this district who work so hard every day to make sure that they're serving the needs of all of our students. But this is work that is enormously complicated. It takes
and it requires,
so much.
And doesn't it require such individual attention? I mean, you might have 10 or 15 kids in the class, but you're dealing with every one of them individually all the time.
Yes, yes. So we have, some students are served by individual education plans, some are served by 504 accommodation plans, and then even outside, though, of the formal special education structure, one of the goals of, say, our social emotional learning curriculum is that sometimes we'll have students who might be distracted or experiencing some behavioral issues that can be addressed by teaching them some of those social and emotional skills to help self-regulate, and we can sometimes address what might appear to be learning issues with that approach instead of having to funnel them into a formal special education program. Of course, if a student demonstrates a need, they get those services, but especially as we're coming out of the pandemic and have had so much interruption in learning, we're really seeking ways to proactively meet the needs of students before it rises to the level of needing an evaluation and then needing services. And we also, though, have really strong specialized special education programming, and that's an area that's really important for us to continue to invest in. It's the right thing to do for students. If we can meet a student's complex educational needs in Easton Public Schools, it's the best thing for them. They can go to school with their siblings and with their friends and with their neighbors versus having to get on a bus and ride maybe 40 minutes or an hour to another school and have a really, really long day. But from a fiscal perspective as well, when we have students who do need to attend school outside of the district, that can be enormously expensive in terms of both tuition and transportation. So one of our future goals is to continue to build the capacity and the quality of our in-house special education so that we can serve students here.
And you've been pretty successful at that.
Yes, we've been able to launch quite a few programs at all levels that are serving our students.
Did those programs attract other students from other districts so that you're having money coming in?
We have, I don't want to misspeak, I believe we have had a collaborative that we work with use classroom space within one of our schools, within Richardson Olmsted School, had some room where we were able to receive a fee for a collaborative to run some programming within the school building. But in terms of tuitioning in students into our program, I don't believe we're able to do that right now.
Okay. Well, we've covered a lot.
Yes, we have. It's my favorite subject. I could talk to you all day.
I know. Well, it's certainly a pleasure to meet you, and good luck with all your future plans. Thank you so much for coming and explaining some things that can be quite complex and difficult for our viewing audience to comprehend. So we thank you so much, Jennifer. All the best. And that's it for Community Forum today. Hope you've enjoyed this program as much as we have enjoyed presenting it to you. Until next time, be well.